I'm unmuting in 3, 2.
Hey friends, welcome in. It's the Your Illini Nation pregame show. Illinois at Purdue getting underway in just under 90 minutes. She's Courtney, Layne, Brewer. I'm Glenn Kinley. We are, if we seem like we're going crazy, it's because we were on air for high school football coverage. That's the word.
Coverage. See,
10 hours ago, maybe?
Less than that, it feels like. So if you watched us last night and you're up watching us again this morning, thank you, and just know we're going through it too.
Yeah, we appreciate you tuning in. Bear with us here on this one, but we'll try to still make it a good pregame show for you. Fans starting to file in here.
It's hard to complain when this is our job. It's a beautiful day. Really neat facility. I've never been here before. You haven't either. And like you just said, fans starting to file in.
Mm-hmm. If you're gonna have a gig where you go home in between shifts for 6 hours, going to football games before and after that 6 hour gap, a pretty good life. So Illinois Purdue, 11 a.m. Central, 12 o'clock here Eastern time. We already got some orange filing in as well. In fact,
like a good amount of
there might only be 50 fans in here right now, but probably 30 of them are wearing orange. We got some Cubs hats. Cubs Brewers, a big one this afternoon. So lot to keep track of today if you're an Illinois fan and a Cubs fan. Courtney, it's another big game for Illinois, a trophy game, a game with some extra meaning, a game that maybe isn't a team that terrifies you until you factor in that they didn't terrify you last year either, and it was an overtime game after Illinois led by 20-something points.
Right. This has also historically been a tough place for Illinois to play. Illinois hasn't won here since that 2019 season, and we all know the last year this was a close one. So when you add in the factor of the cannon, when you added all of that, the good amount of fans that are literally right in front of you and I, there's some extra spice.
Especially when you add in that they're blaring the music on these speakers, all right? I apologize if the audio is not perfect. The music is coming through very loud. On the bright side, it's really bad music, too, so that's also going for us.
Sabrina Carpenter, you love Sabrina Carpenter.
I'm still trying to figure out Sabrina Carpenter and what I mix her up with a lot of other artists. Yes, but I'm working on the music taste. Illinois got a major bounce-back win last week against USC, just a much-needed win with the game-winning field goal from David Alano. And I think this is a game, Courtney, typically, certainly when you would play a team with the resume of Purdue and a team that only won what did they win, a game last year, maybe two?
One.
You say, we want to take care of these guys. This better not be close. And certainly a lot of Illinois fans are thinking that, surely. But also, just given the rivalry, given the history, given that this tends to be a weird game, I think if you come out with a win today, you're happy.
This also isn't that Purdue team last year. Barry Odom brought in his entire roster when he took over this team. So Illinois hasn't played these guys before. Even the guys who have played Purdue 4 or 5 times in their career, they haven't played these guys.
It's a new staff. It's a new roster in many ways. They do return the running back, Maccabee, who has, I think, carried the ball over 500 times in his college career. He has a lot of college football experience. And they return the quarterback, Brown, who Brett Bielema actually talked earlier this week about having some similarities to Luke Altmaier. They're not the same in every way. Are we still on air?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, we're still on. They're not the same in every way, but Brian Brown mounted that big comeback for Purdue last week to force overtime. And so there are some carryover at those important positions, the quarterback position, the running back position. It's a return game for the punter, Keelan Crimmins, who played here last year and now will suit up on the other side of this one. But a lot of storylines to match or to talk about. The biggest one is just Illinois keeping that Cannon trophy.
Yeah, you got to hold on to it. Getting it back last year the way that they did it in overtime when I don't even think Purdue fans thought that game was going to overtime, let alone Illinois fans. And so the extra added, you got to hold on to that trophy. Bielema has said time and time again that, since he came up in the Big Ten and since he was at Wisconsin for the Axe Trophy, he knows how important the trophy games are. Even if, for example, a 1-win Purdue team last year versus a 10-win Illinois team last year, it still matters because it's a trophy game.
If Illinois was unbeaten right now and had not had the Indiana game, I think there's some narrative of I don't know if trap game is the right word, but are we overlooking these guys because if Illinois had, and I know this is a big what if because it wasn't a close game, but if Illinois had came into this game unbeaten, they would be a top 7 team in the country. Yeah. Okay, are you overlooking Purdue? Because of that loss, I don't think there's any element of that. I think that already the Purdue game doesn't fit the trap game stereotype because of all the other elements we just talked about with the rivalry and with the trophy game and with the close proximity and the recruiting battles that they have. but even more so when you lose a game by 53 points, you probably don't go into any matchup, at least in the recent weeks after that, thinking, well, this one's an easy one, we'll roll to a win.
You certainly shouldn't.
Yes, right.
You certainly shouldn't. Nobody expected that going into the Indiana game, and to see it happen, you have to take every game on paper for that one.
Illinois, probably the biggest positive of the USC game was the offense starting faster, being able to run the football, and the O-line being night and day from what we saw a week ago. I mean, Luke Altmaier was sacked 7 times, and Illinois had next to nothing on the ground as far as rushing yards go in that game in Indiana. Then Illinois outgained USC on the ground last week. I think it was the most rushing yards Illinois had in a game this year, with the exception of that season opener against an FCS opponent. So that was a massive, massive step forward for the offense, but really for the O-line. They said all week leading up that it wasn't only the O-line. I know it wasn't, but it has to feel good for those guys.
I keep going back to the O-line, especially when you think about how Brett Bigelow opened up his press conference and was basically, in better words, was like, see, you guys got on to me about the O-line.
Right.
There you go. It gives fans a lot of hope to know that the team is coachable and fixable, and the O-line is a place that you just can't continue to have those issues in the Big Ten and sort of see that fixed when you have the talent and the returners that you have at that position.
Yeah, there was high expectations for that group coming into the year, and Coach Bielema talked about it after the win against USC, but there are mottos to this program, and some of them he repeats them often to us: tough, smart, dependable, and he mentioned another one of them after USC: good teams have to be able to run the ball, defend the run, and cover kicks. But he repeats those to the media a lot, and I'm sure those terms are used in their building a lot.
Oh, I'm sure.
What he said after USC is, I shouldn't have to say that every single day of practice. We got to be able to run the ball, defend the run, and cover kicks. Right. That has to be known. That has to be something that's instilled in our program to where I don't have to remind you every day. And it feels like they got back to that of, this is what we do. This is how we're going to play. USC was an opponent where I feel like they thought, they don't play this Big Ten style, traditional Big Ten style football.
Right.
Let's go out and control the tempo of this game. And it's a Purdue team that probably, and maybe this is recency bias from last year, Illinois doesn't want to get in a shootout today.
No,
Illinois would love to play a lower possession game, force a few punts, be good on offense, be efficient on offense, but not be one where there's, maybe don't want a 50-49 game or whatever it was last year.
Let's not do that. It was 50-49.
It was stressful.
And you hit the nail on the head. Lost my train of thought. USC, they weren't expecting Big Ten football. This is a Big Ten football team through and through. You have to be able to refocus and square up against that, which is good when you know this team. Like I just said, it's a whole new roster and a whole new staff, but it is still Purdue football.
Quickly, the availability report and injury update. This is the Orlando Nation pregame show with Courtney and Glenn. If you're watching or just tuning in, we appreciate you watching. The main note on the pregame injury or availability report is Josh Kreutz, Illinois starting center, listed as questionable. That's the only one that we didn't expect or pretty much know was coming. Daniel Brown's out again. He's been out for a few weeks. But we don't know about Josh Kreutz. We'll find out from Bielema after the game.
We saw him warming up. He's like
he's out there. Yes.
He has a shirt on.
He had on as much as everybody else did at the time that we saw him, I guess.
No, he didn't have on the Navy.
He didn't have on the quarter zip?
No, he didn't.
That might have just been he was hot.
That might have just been it was hot, but we'll see. That's not a guy that you want to lose.
No, he's your starting center. Is in many ways the I was going to say the center of that O-line. He is, quite literally.
Well,
but a huge part of that O-line and the guys that have been snapping the ball to Luke Altmaier for a long time. I know he brings lots of energy and leadership on that O-line, so that would be a big piece for Illinois to be without.
Especially long term. Maybe you can skate by today, but long term.
Right.
Ohio State and Washington right around the corner. That is the last
Yeah, so like I said, we'll keep you updated. He might play today, and it was just that he had rolled an ankle and he's feeling fine, and it's a non-talking point after this game. He might not play today. Of course, we'll find out more from Brett Bielema depending on what happens there. Illinois has to be able to run the ball regardless. What we have seen in recent weeks, though, is this depth come to play. I shouldn't say recent weeks. I should say recent week because we didn't see anything 2 weeks ago. But this depth come to play at wide receiver. And I tell you about a guy who has maybe been quietly really good in my eyes is Hudson Clement.
Yeah.
Everybody has talked about Hank Beatty, obviously. He's been pretty solid. Colin Dixon had the long touchdown at IU and has been good. And then Justin Bowick
only scored touchdowns.
Yes, Justin Bowick scores all the touchdowns, so he only has 9 catches on the year, but he's talked about a lot more, and that's fair. But Hudson Clement has kind of been quietly getting these 7, 10, 12, 4-yard gains.
I thought that coming out of Duke, actually.
Yeah.
He had a really nice catch at Duke that gave me, put him on my radar even more so than normal. Now I've watched him for these last 2 since then, and you're really starting to see him jump off the page and show why he was recruited to come here.
I mean, we've said it before, but he was West Virginia's leading receiver. Like, he's used to being a go-to guy, and it seems like Luke likes throwing the ball his way. I know Illinois fans are locked in on this season and even specifically this game, so maybe you'll all hate this, but it not what you want to think about right now, but Illinois' wide receiver core could almost entirely come back.
Yeah.
I think it could entirely come back if 5 for 5 was passed. I mean, you're talking about Hudson Clement, Colin Dixon. Hank Beatty looks like an NFL player right now, but maybe Hank Beatty, Justin Bowick, like, that's a pretty good 2026 wide receiver core. Again, I know we got a football game today, but I'm just thinking out loud, that doesn't sound too bad.
Doesn't sound bad at all, especially when you look at the success sub-1 game that they've had with the amount of returners that Illinois had this year.
Yeah, Illinois didn't return much this year, and it's still been solid in that receiving game. One thing we haven't seen a ton is the tight ends get involved. Let me be clear, it's not that they haven't been involved at all. Like, we've seen a little bit of Cole Rusk, a little bit of Tanner Arkin. I forget which one of them. I think Christian Abney had a catch last week, or maybe it was Davin Stoffel, but those guys have gotten mixed in here and there. They've been on the field even if they haven't been catching. I think that could add a really nice element to this Illinois offense, because right now you have three-headed monster at running back. Aiden Lawfrey not listed on the availability report, which is good news.
Very good news. Also known, this is defense, but also known Dylan Rosiak on the availability report.
Yes.
As in he's available. He's not
Yes,
on there. Is what I'm saying.
Aiden and Dylan both expected to play. Justin Bowick, good to go. He was out a couple weeks ago. But the tight end's getting involved. You have the depth at wide receiver. We just talked about that. You have Aiden, Caden, and Khalil in the running back room. But those tight ends being a threat, not just a here and there, but an actual ability to be game breakers. And if you don't contain these guys, it will beat you. That could be big and beneficial for Illinois on the offensive side of the ball. Anything else that you want to see today on offense for Illinois, other than running the football?
I want to see consistency. I want to see, I love the scoring by committee that we've seen, and I'm not saying I'm uncomfortable with that, but I still, this is week 6, I think Illinois can define their offense a little more before getting into this stretch. So I'd like to see a little more consistent identity, as fun as it is to be like, I don't know who's going to score.
Right.
It'd be nice to nail that down before you really get into this gauntlet of Washington and Ohio State.
And we'll see if Barry Lunny digs into his bag of tricks at all anymore. I mean,
yeah, I was just telling you, just in our newsroom, who knows what else they're still keeping.
What else
from
Hank
us.
Beatty is going to do? I mean, I think.
Not even Hank, all of them. They have all these little tricks.
Yes, yeah, we've seen some cool play calls. I think, and maybe if the time is right, I'll ask Hank about this. But I would like to see him try a PAT. Maybe, I'm thinking. Coach Bielema joked about him playing defense, and if the defensive back room relatively healthy, except for Xavier Scott today, who's out long term. But if they got banged up, Hank Beatty could probably play a little corner or free safety. But I would like to see him maybe get some lessons from David Alano. We got lessons from David Alano over the summer. Didn't work out so well. Hank Beatty has a minor amount more of athletic ability than us, so I have a feeling
it's not a knock on David Alano as a teacher.
No, it's quite literally we are incompetent in the
ability.
kicking game. Yes.
And we had fun. Isn't that what matters?
Yeah, we had a good time. David was a good teacher. He was very patient with us, as he needed to be. But
And
Hank
if you
Beatty,
haven't seen that, this is normally the part where I tell you to go watch it. You don't have to.
yeah, you didn't miss much. But Hank Beatty has been so versatile. We've talked a lot about the offense. Let's talk about the Illinois defense. You're without Xavier Scott, which I know we've talked about the last couple of weeks now, but it's a major blow. I don't think it has to be an absolute deal breaker of we can't get stops for without this guy, but we would be lying if we tried to pretend, okay, well, they got depth there, so they're good. And they do. I'm not saying they don't. When you lose a player as good as Xavier Scott, it's significant.
It is. And there were some moments there where Matt Bailey was in question as well. So to know that you have Matt Bailey.
Who was also not listed on the injury report, which is good.
Yes. To know that you do have those, I guess resources is the word I'm looking for, to know that you have those guys that you can go to, I think gives you some comfort and some confidence. But there's still an anxiety that comes with not knowing Xavier Scott's status. And that's something that, I'm sure they know better than we do about, his timeline, things
Right.
like that. we can't conjecture at that point, but what we do know is that there are guys behind him who are proven. It's not like scrambling.
And in the defensive secondary, getting Jaheim Clark back last week was a huge boost. I think we had a feeling that it would be. I mean, the guy literally goes by juice. So, like, he brought a lot of energy to that defensive secondary. He had the fumble recovery, but he had a couple other good plays. It felt like, honestly, USC, who threw the ball a lot, so maybe this was not specifically to Jaheim, but just in general, they threw the ball around a lot. But it did feel like at times they said, this guy hasn't played in 5 weeks. Let's try it out. Right. By the end of the game, they weren't trying out Jaheim Clark anymore. I think they had realized that wasn't working for the most part. Tanner Heckel, who I've been a big fan of, he's 8-man football kid from Kansas, small town. He had a rough one last week. We talked to Corey Parker about that. 2 of those USC touchdowns were thrown his way. Corey Parker talked about it and said, like, at the end of the day, 1, he has to move past those. 2, if you watch the film, and I don't claim to be a defensive secondary expert, but it was not a coverage breakdown. It was not that Tanner Heckel did anything egregious or made a horrible play. One of them, he was right there, and the kid just made a heck of a catch. And sometimes you got to tip your cap and say, USC's got some pretty good athletes. It was a great catch. It was a great throw. We'll get him next time. I don't think there was things that you saw from Tanner Heckel where you said, this guy can't play back there.
No,
it wasn't like that by any means. We certainly would love to see him be better. We've also seen a number of guys play in that defensive secondary. Sabor Kareem has played. We mentioned Jaheim Clark, obviously Miles Scott, Matt Krasetich, Matthew Bailey. Like, those guys are all big. Torrey Cox, like, can make plays. Torrey Cox undersized, but has made.
Torrey Cox had a great USC game.
Yeah, and he's made a number of good plays. I go back to his pick at Nebraska last year, which was still like one of the crazier interceptions you'll see. But he's a guy that has played a lot of football for Illinois, so they will lean on those guys. Of course, Courtney, everything gets easier for those guys when your Gabe Akis and your Leon Lowry and your James Thompsons are making life hell for the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a cheat code when you've got those guys. I mean, peek behind the curtain. When we first got here, we took a lap, and there was a point where Glenn was standing right next to Gabe Akis, and he is just. Did
it look more or less ridiculous than when I interviewed Zavonimir Evasic?
It's a great question. I don't have an answer. It's just almost comical to see how big these guys are and how battle-proof they are. They're putting out a featurette on Gabe Akis this week on Illinois Football Twitter that was really cool, getting to learn more about him. But with James Thompson gave us all a scare last week at USC, but he's also fine. It's like a cheat code.
Yeah, those guys are good, and they need those guys to get after the quarterback, to stuff up the run game, the Kurt Neals, the Gentle Hunts, to stuff up the run game. Like, life gets so much easier. When the quarterback has too much time, you can have great players in the secondary. It doesn't matter if he has 8 seconds. Big Ten offenses, their receivers are usually going to be able to get open somewhere, one of the 4 or 5 of them in 8 seconds, right? So when they're putting pressure on the quarterback, and Brown's a guy who will run, Illinois has to be mindful of that. He ran the ball a lot to get Purdue back in the game a year ago. So containing that quarterback, containing that run game can make life so much easier for the guys on the back end of your defense. Okay, we've talked about offense, we've talked about defense, and the natural next talking about would be special teams for Illinois.
What is there that we can even go into analysis on? I mean,
David Alano
good.
David Alano kick well. Yeah.
David Alano do good at kick. I mean, I just can't imagine the week that kid has had.
Yeah, he was like he surely didn't. I don't know if he drinks or not. I don't know if he's a partier. He didn't strike me as one, but I'm sure if he was out at the bar, he didn't have to buy a beverage.
Oh, no.
And so, and I will say too, if you watch the video, Courtney had the behind angle, and then Tristan and I were in each corner of the end zone. If you watch any of our 3 videos of that kick last week, it was 41. It was good for 55 at least.
At least.
Yeah.
Incredible. And I mean, that's what we were told all summer. He was nailing it for like 60.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We heard lots of good things about David. Of course, Illinois will hope to have touchdowns and not many field goals today, but David Alano has looked great. We mentioned the return game for the punter, Keelan Crimmins. I'll tell you, those special teams plays in a game that can sometimes be weird, for lack of a better term, in these Illinois-Purdue matchups, those plays end up mattering. Look at the blocked punt against Indiana. And I know people say that they lost by 50, Glenn. The blocked punt. That was what turned the tide, man. Everything went, not everything. They got the Colin Nix touchdown after that, but that was a huge moment in the game. The crowd came to life. I don't believe this crowd will be maybe as at the level that we saw the Hoosiers crowd. But
still, I mean, there's a good amount of Illini fans here, as we've said now a few times. Like, I am very impressed Yes.
We've talked about Illinois getting a faster start, and then you circle back to last year when Illinois let Purdue seep back into that game. What Illinois needs to do, and I mean, maybe I'm stating the obvious, you say, yeah, that's a great idea, Glenn, but start fast and then just don't let your foot off the gas. This is a matchup where if the lead is 17, but then right before halftime, there's a long explosive play for a Purdue touchdown, and now it's a 10-point game. Purdue gets the ball at a half. All of a sudden, you're up 10 at halftime, but you don't feel great about it. Illinois has to, I think this is a game where that end of the first half, start of the second half, which coaches talk about being more important than maybe we always realize, that could be significant in a game like this.
And that goes back to my point about consistency. We've seen Illinois have these hot starts, one hot start, and then we've seen Illinois have these strong second halves. Can we do the whole thing?
Yeah.
Just put on the gas. I know this team is capable of it. I just don't think it's played out.
And last week was one of the better offensive performances we've seen as far as start to finish. The defense struggled in the second half, and USC took the lead late. I mean, I'm stating the obvious there, but we're with you for 4 or 5 more minutes here on the Illini Nation pregame show. Illinois and Purdue kick off at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central Time. Courtney, is it about the time where, as I adjust our lighting, we do our random predictions of the week? I think mine was, I actually got it right last week.
You've had a couple strong ones.
Mine was horrible at Indiana.
This is my first pregame show in weeks, so I'm honestly scared.
I'm trying to remember as we're on air. I had one last. Oh, Caden Fagan was mine last week. I didn't, not a touchdown necessarily, although he scored one. But I just said I thought he was gonna have a big game, and that turned out to work out all right. Do you have one, or you want me to go first?
You go first. I'll think.
If you haven't noticed, we don't. If you ever hate our predictions, it wasn't thought out. We didn't put hours of preparation.
And
Usually,
if you watch Friday Football Fever, our top 3, we're doing those 5 minutes before.
Yes. They were pretty good last night, though. Lots of good high school football coverage. If you missed it, go to WCIA.com, Friday Football Fever. Check out that show. We had some good games and some interesting storylines that are developing throughout the season.
2/3 of the way through the high school season.
Yeah, crazy. What do I like today? I think Illinois dials up the turnover machine. I'll say Illinois defense forces 3+ turnovers. And we talked about Torrey Cox. I'll go Torrey Cox interception.
Okay, I'm going to go with somebody else that we talked about earlier. And this is not as much of a prediction as something I would like to and hope to see.
Okay.
Let's see Hudson Clement continue to solidify himself. Let's see him continue to put
I like
numbers
that a lot.
on the board and show why he came here, why he was brought into this team. He's been flying under the radar. You can only fly under the radar for so long before it starts to be an issue. Let's show him who he is.
I mean, Hank Beatty, Colin Nixon, Justin Bowick are going to garner so much attention, especially Bowick once you get in the red zone, and your tight ends usually get attention in the red zone. So I like that. I think that's a good call.
And again, that's just something I would like to see. I haven't even seen him yet, but
I like it. I think it's a good call, though. All right, Hudson Clement, and then some turnovers for the Illini defense, and an interception for Torrey Cox. You heard it here first. If it goes wrong, please don't ridicule us.
no, we're just here.
Any other notes, Courtney, before we sign off here from the pregame show?
No, I don't think any of us were thrilled about this early kickoff, but I do think it's a chance for going back to consistency. You had an early kickoff last week, you had an early kickoff this week, you have one next week. Let's let this team get into a rhythm where they're comfortable, where other teams might not be, and I think this is a chance to do that. It's a beautiful day for the 47th time onto the Layne fans here.
It is a nice day. It's like the slightest bit toasty if I'm going to find something to complain about, but there's a light breeze. We're on real grass, which Courtney and I are liking out here. And so you'd love to take some momentum into that Ohio State game. If you're Illinois, a big game from a momentum standpoint, a big game in keeping the trophy. We had a video of Pat Bryant last year holding that thing up after the game while they sing to the band after the game. And you could tell that meant something to him, man.
Yeah.
Like holding that thing up, that was their first thought when that game ended is, where's that trophy? Find me that trophy and get me that thing. It wasn't an afterthought. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, we won. I guess we get this trophy. That was the first thing those guys were looking for. It means something to these guys. A big game. Illinois, Purdue, 11 a.m. Central, 12 o'clock Eastern. Brett Bielema's press conference will be live right back here wherever you are watching this.
And then no early newscast on Channel 3 back home, but we'll have a recap, and Tristan will have highlights 9 and 10.
All right. Coverage comes your way on air and online. Besides the shows, we'll have tons of stuff on social media as well, so be sure to tune in there. You want to sign us off?
For Glenn Kinley, I'm Courtney Layne Brewer. We're coming up in an hour to kick off as Illinois looks to defend the Purdue Cannon Trophy against the Boilermakers. See you back here post-game.